Hi, Ben Jamal. Thank you for coming up from London. You're the director of Palestine Solidarity Campaign. It's great that you've come along. You're going to speak at our last screening this evening. But just before we get going, we just wanted to ask you a few quick questions. So obviously this film, Boycott, is about the US boycott campaigners, people that are ensuring that they have the right to not be penalised for wanting to boycott Israel. So just wanted to ask you how that's different to the UK experience of the boycott campaign.
Yeah, so the film that, as you said, that's showing tonight, is very much focused on the United States, and it's focused on the fact that in more than 30 states there have been laws introduced which attempt to prescribe BDS, so attempt to penalise individuals by making sure they can't get contracts with states if they support boycott, divestment, and sanction, but uniquely in relation to Israel. And it's worth saying that that's not a United States specific issue. This is happening globally, and it is a part of Israel's global effort to try to delegitimize the Palestinian struggle for liberation, to try to delegitimize activism for Palestine, and in particular to try to suppress support for the Palestinian-led call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So we've seen similar laws introduced in other European countries, and we've got our own version of a law like this waiting to be introduced here in the UK.
We have, yes, and maybe that's a reflection of some of the successes that we've had in the UK. Do you want to tell us about some of the BDS successes?
Yeah, so I mean, it's worth saying something about, first of all, the narrow reason why the government is intending, and what it's, to say a little bit about what it's planning to do. It announced in 2019 in the Queen's speech then that it would bring in a bill, the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions Bill, that would stop public bodies, so that means local government pension schemes, that means universities, that means councils in terms of their procurement. It would stop them procuring, making decisions not to procure from or to divest from companies that are complicit in abuses of human rights and international law, unless the government itself has introduced sanctions. But it's made it very, very clear that the reason for doing this is to stop public bodies supporting boycotts of Israel. The reason it's doing it is because it made an attempt to do something similar in 2016. So it attached regulations to existing pension law that would stop local government pension schemes from divesting. PSC took the government to court. We won in the High Court, lost in the Court of Appeal. We then took it all the way to the Supreme Court. In 2019, Supreme Court said it's illegal, you can't do this. So this is the government's response. It's now trying to give itself the power to do it. You're right in what you say. Why is it happening? Why is Israel devoting all of this energy into trying to suppress boycott, divestment, sanctions? Because Israel recognizes that the BDS movement is the biggest strategic threat to its ability to continue to impose a system of apartheid. And that's not my words. That's what Benjamin Netanyahu said in 2012. He made a speech where he said, this is the biggest threat to us. And after that, introduced a ministry of strategic affairs, whose remit was entirely to coordinate global efforts to suppress BDS. So it is a response to Israel that recognizing that growing support for this movement will leave it isolated culturally, politically, and economically in the same way apartheid South Africa was.
That's really interesting, and it makes it sound like it's quite a challenge for us as individuals. But individually, what do you think we can do to be part of the BDS movement?
Well, in terms of this law, I would say, but then more broadly. So I would say there are two things to do. First of all, it is really important that we unify to oppose this law. And PSC has built a really broad coalition. There are 60 organisations who've signed up and issued a statement in April saying they oppose this law. So who's that? That's organisations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, War on Want, climate justice groups, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, faith groups, the Quakers, the Methodists, Muslim Association of Britain, Jewish organisations that oppose what Israel's doing. Why have they all signed this? Because they say this is not just an issue that affects those who want to campaign in relation to the rights of the Palestinian people. This affects anybody who is going to a public body and saying you should stop divesting in these companies that are complicit in supporting violations of international law. Mm-hmm. So first thing people need to do is to put their weight into that coalition. Mm-hmm. We're organising protests, we're lobbying MPs. We don't know when the government's going to introduce this, but when they do, we need to know that they're going to be met with a broad base of opposition. But the second thing we say, in a way, what I've just talked about there is what we call defending the space, stopping our space being closed. And we've got a government that in lots of ways is trying to close down the right to protest. The second thing we do, as well as defending the space, is we continue to enlarge this space. So the best answer to the attempt to create a chilling effect to make people fearful of supporting Boycott is to become engaged in Boycott. And PSC runs a number of campaigns with specific targets, targeting complicit companies that are involved in supporting Israel's infrastructure of oppression, so companies like Puma, Barclays Bank, JCB, so a whole range of campaigns that you can find on our website, where week in, week out across the country there are people campaigning in relation to these companies. And we're also running a campaign that is asking local government pension schemes to divest from all companies that are complicit in violations of international law. And we're giving them a list of all the investments they hold and ask them to live up to their responsibilities to invest ethically.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you.